Hey, everybody. For those on video, my name is Julie Reyes, Chairperson of Bronx Community Board 8. Welcome, everyone. I'd just like to say for the AGA excusals for this evening's meeting, should they come on video, is Sylvia Alexander, Marty Walcott, Chuck Murdoch. And if you have the AGA, you must show your face throughout the meeting. That's Margaret? Okay. You're Margaret. So while she's settling, we'll do the approval of the executive minutes. Is there any good discussion? No discussion?
Motion approved.
Okay, we'll wait until we do the roll call. I just want to get that out of the way and then we'll move on. We'll move on to the treasurer's report.
Okay, good. All right. Good evening, everyone. This is the treasurer's report for February 2025. We item number 1, we now have 13,225 remaining. Allocated 12,258. Item 1.1 has the breakout. There's not much difference from January. Supplies about $245 more. Code number 400. We paid out $832 for Jalen's January services, and there was no cleaning expenditure. So we now, so as I said, we now have 13,225 left.
Jalen's December, up to December.
That's just, I thought the 1888 was covered December.
We haven't paid January yet. I just want to make sure that that's understood.
Okay. Okay, all right, I stand corrected. So, allocated 12,258. Item 1.2, there were no budget mods. Item 1.3, nothing encumbered. And item 1.4, we now have $2,065 left towards rent and energy detail. And that's the February treasurer's report.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Anybody on Zoom? Okay. So then we'll move on to roll call.
Julie Reyes, present. Sergio Villaverde. Juan Bridgello, present. Joy Campbell Privateer.
Present.
Laura Spalter.
Present.
Sylvia Alexander.
Present.
Bob Bender.
Here.
David Gauman.
Present.
Mary Ellen Gibbs.
Present.
Edward Green.
Present.
Rashida Hilliard.
Here.
Rabbi Kaplan.
No.
Josh Land.
No.
Oscar Martinez. Charles Merdler. Daniel Rowan.
Here.
Ramdat Singh.
Here.
Deborah Travis. Martin Wolpaw.
Here.
And Margaret, I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting that the AGA people are Chuck, Marty, and Sylvie for this evening.
Okay.
Thank you. So then I'll go back to, do you have a comment? Okay, great, thanks. So then I'll go back to the roll call, the approval of the executive
Motion
minutes.
Second.
Okay, any abstentions? Disapproves, opposed, or accepted, thank you. Okay. So then it's chair's report, we have, an intern just for about 2 months, thanks to our passport member Julian Baez from Hunter College. And he'll be helping out if you need any help with your committees like research, he'll be mostly remote. So if there's anything that you need done, just contact Farrell or myself. And then we'll get him to give you a hand. He's gonna start working with Mary Ellen with the senior guide. And then he'll help out at the meeting next week, at the board meeting. So he'll be doing a little bit of everything. We only have him for like 2 weeks. Okay. Jalen will be missed, but we're still gonna try to get it back.
Right.
Doing excellent.
I swore him a
Okay, so, I just say that we had a meeting this morning with a few of the elected officials on the migrant issues. Bob Bender brought up a good point. As community board, we should be out there and giving information, especially on something so serious as undocumented migrants have to be helped, give information. And quite a few elected officials, representative and Councilmember Dinowitz was present, and the rest of the representatives from the Public Advocate's Office, Assemblymember Alvarez,
Gustavo.
Gustavo, and then Councilmember Sanchez, Senator Rep. We did give short notice for the people who showed up. I was grateful. And Councilmember De La Rosa will be speaking with us next week. She could make it, but I think it was a pretty good response. I just wanted to turn it over to Bob and let you give a few comments on it.
Oh.
You kind of spearheaded it, and I'm glad you did. That's why I keep dragging you in.
Well, okay, that's what happens when you speak up, everybody be warned. No, I mean, obviously it's a huge issue right now. It's in the national news. And, there was recently, a situation in the Bronx, but those were people for whom there were outstanding warrants. But it's going on. We see that it's going on. Everybody's heard the same news reports about mass deportation and so on. And I think it's important that we all know what the law says, what's permissible, what's not permissible, what we can do to help immigrant families who are already in the community. People have been here sometimes for decades, and people who are here more recently. We have a shelter in the community at 238th and Waldo. And I think it's important to know what their rights are and so on. So that's part of what we discussed today. And I think, Julie, if I came away from the meeting with the same understanding as you, we're going to try to do some more public forum
Yes.
where there'll be a lot more information that will be conveyed to everybody. Probably not in person, but possibly. The problem with an in-person event on this subject is you don't really want the people who are at risk to show up at the meetings, because if they show up at the meetings, they can be very vulnerable on their way in or out. But anyway, it was the beginning of a conversation that I think we need to have.
Yes, it was good. Laura?
I think it might be helpful to invite West Hab. They're the organization that's the service provider for that shelter.
Okay.
Good thought, thanks.
Mhm.
Okay, any questions? And we're targeting to have the forum in March, in a centrally located place. And that naturally it will be on Zoom, and because it is a board affair, the members would have to be present, but mostly to have it available on video so that people can still look online and get the information.
Mhm.
Yes.
Will there be an immigrant lawyer or someone who knows the law in that respect? Because I feel like I know like the general law, but it would be nice to know specifically.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, we talked about legal aid being represented, because they are directly addressing this problem. So I don't know if somebody from legal aid will be there, but that's certainly one agency we're going to contact about that particular issue. Because you're absolutely right, Rashida.
And most of the representatives and Councilmember Dinowitz, they're having their own informational gatherings, and they're giving us great information, so we can follow up and utilize what they have in the past as well. They were very informative and helpful.
So my school, majority of it is immigrant population. And we've used, well, under the Department of Education, there's Project Arms, Project Open Arms. That's the part that's overseeing like, you know, trainings for us. And also the parents of like the school system of like ICE can be in the school, yada, yada, yada. And also like a good resource is Catholic Charities. Their resources are in both English and Spanish and Haitian Creole already. And we've used their resources in my school.
Great, thank you. Well, I know Farrell will be contacting you.
Yeah, of course, I'm here.
I've
whatever you
done
like.
with Catholic Charities, so yeah, they're great.
Great, thank you. David?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I missed it. This is gonna be a forum for the community, or this is gonna be a community board meeting?
No, it's a forum for the community.
Okay,
For the community.
all right, so we're invited but not expected.
We're working on that. We'll get all the details in regards to that, because if we're hosting it, it depends what type of meeting that we're having. We'll let you know in a few weeks if you have to come or not. Either way, we're gonna have it.
Well, of course.
So we'll get back to you in a few weeks on that. Because we're still trying to figure out what type of meeting to set. So we'll get back to you on that. Today was our first meeting. We just invited everyone the other day and they came, and it's an ongoing process, baby steps, but definitely in March. What else have we done?
Have we gotten any sense whether West Ham is, you know, willing in any fashion
To do what?
to attend?
Oh, we just had the meeting
We
this
just had a meeting, we
morning.
haven't contacted.
We're gonna.
Oh, I didn't know if you had any conversations
Yeah.
with them
No,
in
we
recent weeks.
just
I
met,
see.
it was Bob, myself and Farah, and quite a few of the elected officials and their representative, well, one elected officials and representatives.
see.
I have to correct it, because, it was, okay. So that's it for my reports. We're going to district manager's report.
Okay, good evening. The community district needs statement, I'm sure, David will talk more, but I just want you to know that I sent the agency responses today to all board members for the, FY 26 budget priorities. So please look out for that in your email. Last week I was away, just want to thank Artie for holding down the fort while I was gone, and for all of you for really not giving too much work to him last week, so thank you. Also, as Julie mentioned, I'm sorry that, you know, we don't have anything going forward right now with Jalen, but I did want to thank her for her hard work, her dedication to finishing projects, her overall pleasant demeanor. She was really a welcome addition to the office, and she really helped do so many projects that assisted me and the office in our organization and outreach. So I'm hoping, yes, at some point, maybe we can continue, but that remains to be discussed. This month is Black History Month, and I also want to wish everyone a happy Lunar New Year to those who celebrate. Our office will be closed for President's Day, Monday, February 17th. I did send a draft March calendar to our executive committee to give me your comments on. Let me know if you are not having a meeting this month. And I do need to make one correction. The March 27th is now open. We're not, the Henry Hudson Greenway meeting will be in February, not in March. I also just again want to express to our chairs, you know, we're not gonna be at most of the nightly meetings, so make sure you know how to use the Zoom. Make sure you remember to record the meeting, and if you have any questions, you know, you can always text me or, you know, call with whatever you need. Also, there are a couple more committees left to appoint vice chairs, so just a reminder to please do so. Then I also just want to say that before I went away, there was a fire at 3030 Heath Avenue. Artie and I did run over there to give some information to anyone who might have been around there. There weren't very many people around there, but we did give, want them to know we're here if they need anything and give information. There are about 45 people that were sent to hotels by the Red Cross. 18 families were displaced. They're still investigating. They haven't given an official cause for the fire yet. But we'll have something shortly, and the FDNY will contact everyone. And the building is empty. There's no one allowed in the building yet. Also, I had the borough president's borough service cabinet meeting today. They did a couple presentations, one from the Office of Nightlife and one from Venture House, which provides mental health services. And they're starting to open places in the Bronx, not in our district, but close by. And then the other thing I just want to mention, which I'll email everyone, is Notify NYC is asking if any committees would like them to present at their meeting, to give information about signing up for Notify NYC. It's a source of information for emergency alerts and important city services. And that is it. Thank you.
Any questions? Go ahead, Rashida.
You mentioned something about committees, needing vice chairs. So was also mentioned that some of the committees would be collapsing. So when is that going to happen so we can decide if we need?
Well, you have a vice chair.
I do.
You're all set.
I'm worried about everybody.
But there's no information yet on collapsing anything. That's a study, I believe, being done.
No, with that, we would have, Towns and Carol Walker. They are doing research as to the committee structures, the board, like they're doing research and they'll present, to the exec what they're finding. And that's been done every few years. I think the last one that combined was education and libraries and cultural affairs. And then before that, we added youth as a standing committee. It's every few years it's done, so that if you have any suggestions for them, please contact Karen and Jill. There's nothing definite. They can come like the last year. I think Laura, you were chair when they came and they made a suggestion and everybody said, go away. So it's not extra stuff. They're just doing research. They have to come to us and then it has to go through, the bylaw. It will be a bylaw change. So we would have to vote on it in 2 consecutive meetings. Okay. So it's definitely not a done deal. They're just.
It's a process.
Yeah. And because we do have a lot of committees and there are some committees where people don't show up and it messes up the form, so it's something good to look at in 2 years.
Question?
Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, the sound is going in and out, so I'm missing some things. One is the recommendation that comes back from that committee goes to the LRE committee to establish the whatever resolution might be required to go before the board. So it goes to LRE first. And secondly, I missed what you said about the education committee.
Oh, no, I was just giving examples on how in the past subcommittees merge when they merge with cultural affairs.
And library.
No, but, yeah. Because what's it? Used to have it, Marvin used to have it.
Right.
Yeah, Marvin used to have cultural affairs and then they merged with education. You could hear that, Marty?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks. Okay. Anything else, Farah?
Nothing from me. Thank you.
And then before we go on to the next one, I forgot to mention in my report that if there's a committee that has something on their list that maybe, isn't being addressed in the budget, let me know because the discretionary funds opened up and it ends for the council people next week. And the senators, one ended yesterday, we're figuring out the other one. So if you have a wish list, contact me and we'll put it on a wish list for discretionary funds and see what happens. Okay, that's it from me. I put in a few requests. I don't know if they'll get it. One was a car. The police department in Parks asked for a car.
Mm.
Yeah, so I had a wish list. Okay, so then we'll go on to committee chairs reports. We'll start at the top. We'll start with Adrian.
Good evening, everybody. I'm having a meeting on February 13th at 4 o'clock in the office. I'm having the Department of Finance come in and speak on SCREE, DRE, and other financial help for older adults. So come support, come listen. There's really good information on it, and that's what I have.
That's good. Any questions? Suri will be very helpful nowadays.
Mhm.
Okay, so then we'll go on to budget. David?
Yeah, 3 weeks ago, we got the city's response, right? And it's been on our website since then for fiscal 96 next year. Obviously, we're about almost 3/4 through our fiscal year. Fiscal 96, is 26, excuse me. Sorry, and I don't know where the 96 came from. Fiscal 26 is what came out from the city 2 weeks ago. It's available on our website. We will be having a public hearing to get comments from the community in the gallery session preceding the board meeting next Tuesday at Intech. And the subject is directly our requests and the and the city's agency responses to it. And then we have to get back our summary. Is it by the 15th or the 28th?
First.
Oh, by March 1st.
Oh, you're talking, oh, no. I'm
No, our
sorry.
response, our response to the city budget that we got 2 weeks ago that we're having our public hearing about next week, we're
Like
supposed
the
to.
end of February, pretty much. It's an early date. that
Yeah,
gives us.
yeah, I thought it was like the 28th. But, so if you have any comments, please get back to us so we can, create our summary. And then, the city will digest all that and the mayor and council will come out, with something usually in mid or to late May, that they ultimately vote on for the budget for the fiscal year that starts, July 1st. And so the other fiscal year we're dealing with is, fiscal year 2027. I'm glad to see that, pretty sure every committee had fiscal 27 budget priorities in their agendas for this month. So it's a very good, in the past month, excuse me. And so I think that's a great start. I think most of you have looked over the prior year ones. This month, again, you should be sort of summarizing your thoughts into capital and expense lists. Next month, I encourage you to vote on them. April, I encourage you to finish the voting. Though, again, you're not required to have a vote. I think it's a good practice. And the results need to be into the office and me by April 21st, a Monday. So if you're busy doing your taxes through the 15th, you got the rest of that week and weekend to get your two lists into us. And that's all she wrote.
Any questions, comments? Thank you, David. Economic Development, Oscar?
Hey, so we had our meeting last night. SPS showed up and we will finalize the requirements or kind of the guidelines for the Betty Campbell Award and get that all sent out prior to Friday. That's when we're going to open up the voting or just the nominations. And then that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments? Okay, thank you. Education, Libraries and Cultural Affairs, Sylvia? Sylvia,
Sylvia.
are you unmuted?
Are you calling on me? I can't hear you.
Yes.
Marty, can you hear us while we're doing the meeting?
This is
Yes.
quite loud. Surprised.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Sylvia. Sylvia?
You can talk, Sylvia, your report.
I still can't hear you. I'm sorry. I must be going deaf, or the system isn't working. Marty brought it up and it just isn't working for me. I'm sorry. We did not have a meeting in January of the Education Committee. However, I did send out all the letters for the principals to participate in our budget system. We've gotten one response. I'm going to call that school tomorrow. It's one of the schools in Kennedy's campus. And hopefully we gave them a date of the February 15th to respond. Of course, I'll extend it if I have to. And hopefully I will get many more. I just want to bring up what Marty said, and maybe I can get in qualification, interpretation of what you said, Julie. You brought up the ad hoc committee, I believe, and you said something about the education committee, which I didn't hear. Could you repeat that again?
Sure, I was just giving an example, what happened in years past, how they would do a research and look to see which committees should be merged, and Education Committee was one. Marvin used to have the Cultural Affairs, and you have Education, and they merged the committees. Did you
In
hear?
other words, you're considering putting another committee onto my committees? I
No,
already
it
have
was
3 of them.
Sylvia, it was just an example of what this committee is doing now. They're just doing research, and I gave your committee as an example of what happened in the past when there was research done and they merged your committee. It was an example.
Historic again.
What was that?
I'm gone.
Oh, okay,
Pretty much.
okay, so we'll go on to environment and sanitation then.
Hold on. Sylvia, which school in the Kennedy campus are you looking to have answer you? I can get you.
Well, there were four responses. I just wanted to make note from schools so far. 4 responses. RKA, 24, and then the 2, one was asking to meet with you, Sylvia, and another one. Which, Sylvia, do you remember which one it was? The Kennedy School?
The EIS Academy, the Ellis Academy.
Yeah, I can get you an answer. I got you.
There are 8 schools within JFK's campus, so that was one of them. We have tried to advocate for budget for them before, and I will speak with her tomorrow and find out what she has on her mind. Did you say that there were other responses? 24
Yeah,
and
I'll-
141?
Yeah, I'll resend it to you, Sylvia, after this meeting. And if you have time tomorrow, we could go over them and you can tell me what you want to do. I know you said you'll speak to one of the schools, which is great.
Did you send me the information?
They all responded where you were on the email, but I'm gonna resend them all to you as one email, so you see who responded so far.
I'm at a loss.
You and Farah will talk offline tomorrow.
Fine, good.
Great.
Thank you. Daniel, environment and sanitation?
Yes, our last meeting was on January 15th, and Department of Sanitation stood us up. So that didn't happen. Maybe they can come to our next meeting on February 19th.
If there's still snow, yeah.
I mean, we're gonna get a lot tonight, I guess, maybe. Otherwise, that's it. And we talked about, budget stuff, which we will continue to talk about at the next meeting. As everyone should.
Questions? Comments? Thank you, Daniel. Health and hospital? Okay. Housing, Rashida?
So, good evening, everyone. Our next meeting is Monday, when February?
Yes.
Oh, okay, February 24th.
Join the club.
And our last meeting was January 27th. We had the Department of Buildings come. We had a representative, Nairobi Lazo Hayes. She spoke about, she followed up on what we had talked about previously, what had to do with the parapet and this laws. She also spoke about what the Department of Buildings role is with respect to all buildings. And, she gave us as much time as she could, which was 25 minutes, so we tried to get as much out of her as we could. In addition, we also had a budget meeting that's been on our agenda, since December, I believe. So we're going to continue to put budget on the, agenda and invite NYCHA and other independence housings, I think. And, hopefully we'll have someone from Accelerator come to speak about, local law 97.
Nice. Any questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
I actually do have a question. sorry.
Okay. No problem.
Any updates on what's happening with Amalgamated? Are they planning to come to the housing committee to speak? Cause it's like, I have friends and family in Amalgamated and what's happening over there is crazy.
Let me put that on the agenda.
Cause
Can-
there's like a whole campus now, well, one of the campus buildings,
Mhm.
no gas, they're
Oh,
cooking
okay.
on hot plates.
Oh, man.
Yeah, no, there's
Yeah,
a
it's
new
been
building
a
now
while.
that has no gas. So it's like, what's happening in Amalgamated is really sad. And me hearing it from friends and family and former students what's happening there is distressful.
And if you're gonna do that, you might consider having a meeting there. They have the space there.
Yeah, glad I called.
Very hard to get a gas line in. Very hard.
Yeah, so like, the building I'm talking about is like, they have a courtyard, I think it's 80 Glen Crowley Park, if I'm mistaken. And then they're like separate buildings, the entire campus, or that set of buildings is out of gas. Yeah.
That's bad.
Is there, oh. It's your
It's
committee.
your-
Is there a contact person?
Yeah, it's the same person we use, you would have it at Vladeck Hall, that's like their meeting space. Where we had a full board meeting.
In September.
Mhm.
Who's the contact person?
I wanna say Alyssa Gilman, she represents the whole Amalgamated, they do all the,
Was there a woman, Doris, in charge?
it's Alyssa,
Okay.
well, at least to use the space, to
This
use the meeting
Radical,
space.
I remember Doris.
She's there.
And if you have it in the winter, I recommend that you ask your members to like carpool, as you leave your car here and go there because the parking is terrible, especially in the winter.
My members take the bus.
Okay, perfect.
But would there be an agency person to help answer questions? In other words,
Well,
if people come, who else might be there to help with knowledge?
HPD, yeah.
that's my question. I mean, well, they have come before. I guess it depends on what, I mean, you said gas and what have you. Does local law 97 have to do with gas?
Mhm,
So Accelerator
mhm.
that's who we're expecting to come next time.
I can talk offline, there's a whole host of issues, like, I get it on a daily basis.
And your liaison, Artie is the housing liaison? Is it Hardy or you?
Yes,
Yes,
Artie.
Artie. He'll be a wealth of information is in regards to speakers for that issue.
I would just suggest you contact the Amalgamated Board of Directors, and the people from them.
Yeah, Alyssa will do that, she gets them all to come. Also.
Got good suggestions? Anyone else? Thank you. Okay, land use?
Yeah, I
Marty,
thought,
you
I expected Chuck tonight. I'm surprised he's not here. There were three items on the meeting, the three items discussed at the meeting this past Monday. The first one concerned a SNAD application on 5445 Palisade Avenue The owner is seeking to expand the house slightly. And it was, we approved it unanimously, and I expect a resolution next week at the board approving for them to go forward. Even though the house is, has a Palisade Avenue address, the fact is it's a side street that comes out of Palisade Avenue. And so if you drove down Palisade, you'd never see the house. It's in the back, with about 4 other houses in that cul-de-sac. Second issue, we talked about the Van Cortlandt Village. There's nothing new that's going on there, except a sense of concern expressed by the residents that a number, I think it's 6 or 8 private homes in that area are being internally converted to become multiple family dwellings, tiny apartments. We don't know. I've contacted DOB and not received an answer yet. We don't know what the intent is, if an agency is coming in and going to put in residents, or they actually intend to rent these out, these apartments out. And unfortunately, as we predicted, this falls into one of the areas of concern under City of Yes housing, where this is perfectly, not only is it perfectly legal, but it's encouraged. So they're concerned about these single family houses becoming multifamily dwellings. And finally, Chuck brought up the issue, and he's very much concerned that there were rumors swirling concerning, we'll call it the visitation site, about what their plans are as to who future residents may or may be. And he has written, and of course Chuck knows lots of people personally, so he contacted them, and we're hoping to have a spokesperson down from the developer there, Spires, at the March meeting, where we hope to learn what's actually going on and to quell, if possible, the rumors that are being spread. That's land use.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? No? Thank you,
Well,
Marty.
I just
Oh,
wanted to
wait,
comment.
David has something.
Marty, do you want to elaborate? Does everybody know what those rumors are, from what was planned there to what they're contemplating now? From
I would
market rate?
prefer not to spread further rumors until we have facts.
Well, but the market rate plan is dead, isn't it?
Well, that's
Or
what.
not?
No.
At the meeting.
I don't
Okay,
think so.
I apologize.
Yeah.
I apologize.
I mean, the question is to what degree there are set-asides within that building. But without fact and hearing it directly, I would not like to spread rumors.
Fine, I withdraw. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Marty. So now we'll hear from Marty from Law, Rules and Ethics.
We have a meeting scheduled for this coming Monday. On the agenda is going to be our perusal of, well, actually 2 items are the main items. Item number 1 is the awards being given on behalf of Community Board 8. And I have been monitoring the minutes from the various committees and have been impressed. Not that I have to be impressed, but I felt that kudos go to those committees for the efforts they have made to try and clarify what the awards are. However, I believe I still have 2 questions which are generic, and those are the only 2 I'll raise tonight. The first is our intent, and you may not agree, but our intent was not to have them all awards given the same night in June and take up half the meeting. So it was, and the suggestion that was made on that resolution that failed, thanks to abstentions. But the recommendation was to ask each committee to select an appropriate month for that award to be given out, whether it's a volunteer month or whatever it is. So I would ask those committees to go back and look at the calendar and hopefully select the month for the presentation that doesn't block up June with 4, possibly 5, if you include the Yankees. So that's half the night before we even get to our meeting. And the second issue of concern is that while the Community Service Award, the original one, did define the reason why the award is being given, I have not seen in the minutes a statement of purpose. We are giving this award from Community Board 8 in order to encourage X, Y, or Z, or whatever the reason is. And I leave that to the committees, but I ask the committees to consider that as something they should be putting in their criteria for the award. That's my report for tonight.
Thank you, Marty. In regards to the months, I believe the youth is in June, what they're going to recommend, because we still have to vote on it. But the June is for the youth. The Irving Latimer Award, a recommendation was made that possibly they have it for the month that your committee had recommended for the, like a volunteer month.
Economic is May.
Economic is May, and what else is there? And the veterans, if there's something comes out of that, will be in September. So they are pretty much staggered, moving forward. And then this year, it's only 2 in June, the youth and the Irving Latimer. You know, and we never know when the Yankees will give their award. That could be in May or June. That we have no control over. So I think in the long run, it will work out as the law rules and ethics has suggested. It just had to come from the committees, it seems. It's like a kid has to learn, don't put your hand on fire, you're gonna burn. You know, that's how I see it. But I think in the long run, it will work out like that.
Well, as I
And
say, I've been monitoring the minutes and it's not in there.
Yeah, well, they just had their meeting.
Our youth is tomorrow.
Yeah, youth is tomorrow, and economics just had theirs last night. And the Irving Latimer, they're gonna report tonight. I think your meeting is,
The 13th, but I don't think we're gonna have it because we didn't get anything yet, so.
okay. But it's coming though. And then we'll remind them about the purpose of it, you know, that will remind them of the
Mhm.
purpose.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on that? But thank you, Marty, good points. Okay, Parks and Recreation?
Yeah, Deb couldn't be here tonight, so I'm giving the report for Parks. A couple of small things, and then there's one big one. Seton Park Fitness area has opened. There was going to be a ceremony, except that we had snow and ice that day, so there was no ceremony. And we did begin our discussion of budget priorities, so we're at work on that. The main event at the meeting last week, was a presentation by Effie from DEP about the Tibbetts Brook daylighting, which we've talked about before. I think everybody knows basically what that project is about. There is work, there was work that took place at the lake, which is now the Mill Pond, last spring, and there's going to be further work on the shoreline restoration this coming spring. The Putnam Greenway is going to be extended south from where it ends or begins, depending on your point of view, around the Golf House. It's going to go all the way down to 230th Street, and there have been some changes to the access points, but that's all in Deb's minutes. So I don't want to get into those kinds of fine details. And the last hurdle is that DEP and the MTA are negotiating over an well, not over the easement, but over the exact specifications of the easement, because the brook is going to be daylighted down to around 232nd Street, and then it has to go into a pipe to go underground all the way down to the Harlem River. And it's going to be on property that is owned by the MTA. And so there's a negotiation going on about whether a track has to be moved or so on. It will get resolved, but it's not finally resolved yet. But the estimate from DEP is that there will be a final design this spring, which has to be passed by the Public Design Commission. Procurement will follow, construction will begin next spring, and is estimated to take 3 years. So don't expect to see any of this anytime soon. So that's the essence of it. Deb's minutes were really quite thorough. The next meeting of the committee will be on February 26th. And the main item we're discussing is the Van Cortlandt Park Master Plan. In 2014, there was a 20-year master plan, and we are now just beyond the halfway point. And so we want to review the master plan and see what's working out, what hasn't worked out, and why. Should there be changes made? Were there things that in 2014 seemed like a good idea and today don't? Or vice versa, something we didn't think of then that we are thinking of. So that'll be February 26th, and if you can make it, I think it's a meeting worth attending.
Comments or questions? No? Okay. Thanks, Bob.
Sure.
Okay. Public safety, Mr. Green?
Public safety had, excuse me, 6 resolutions. State Liquor Authority, we had 5 renewals. One was on Beelbach, 445 West 238th Street, Punch Bowl, 5820 Broadway, Jake's Steakhouse, 6031 Broadway, and Flame. Something Broadway. I messed up the address on that one. I have to go double check that.
I think it's 57.
57, right? Okay.
Yeah, if it's 57.
5740, okay. And TCR Tennis Club of Riverdale, 2600 Netherland Avenue. The committee passed these resolutions. There were no issues reported by the 50th precinct. And our 6th resolution was support for Priscilla's Law, which is City Council Intro Bill 606. And I'm not gonna read this entire thing. I hope everybody has read the resolution. What I will say about it briefly is that it was sponsored by 29 council members, including Councilman Dinowitz. And the gist of it is, it's a local law to amend the administrative code of the city of New York in relation to requiring that every bicycle with electric assist, electric scooter, and other motorized vehicle be licensed and registered by DOT and receive an identifying number which would be displayed on a visible plate affixed to the vehicle. And I'll just read the therefore be it resolved, so you know what we're voting for. Bronx Community Board 8 supports Priscilla's Law, urges the New York City Council to pass Intro Bill 606 and request funds be allocated in the city budget to provide resources necessary for its implementation and enforcement. And those were our resolutions. I'll just say briefly, one other thing that was of interest to me is, you know, for years, I haven't been getting any fire statistics. Somebody comes and reads and they don't even have it up on their website. They haven't had it for years, the statistics. But Battalion Chief Meany did come with some statistics, gave me the statistics, and I'm looking up the statistics, and a couple of them say medical emergencies and medical MFAs and non-medical MFAs. So I'm like, okay, well, what is MFA? What does that even mean? So I did a little bit of digging into their internal statistics, and MFA stands for malicious false alarms. So we had 315 medical emergencies and medical MFAs. And so, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody's going around pulling fire alarms. That is one thing that can happen, but it also means no emergency was found by responding units. So it could mean that somebody called in an emergency, maybe a fire was put out, maybe some type of medical emergency was a false alarm in that respect. So, that's a new one on me. Malicious false alarms, I think it's a little bit of a misnomer because they're not all maliciously done. But, so I thought that was good that we finally got statistics and hopefully we'll continue to get them from, FDNY because they're not posted anywhere on their website. Anybody have any questions?
I'm hoping, especially as a chair of aging, that people on our board support the Priscilla law. Because it's really affecting the older adults in our community. I've seen the older adults, like I'm down in South Riverdale. They're like practically jumping out of their shoes with these scooters and e-bikes and bikes that, and because they're scaring the heck out of them, they're falling because they're getting thrown all over the place. They come on the sidewalk grabbing their bags. There's no repercussion for them because they don't have licenses right now. So at least like, if you see on Johnson Avenue, there's an honest camera there and it can pick up their license plates if they're there. So there will be, follow-up, things that the police department can do to penalize these people that are like terrorizing neighborhoods with these scooters and everything. I mean, they can knock you down, you can get really hurt and not be able to work. And with no license plates, there's no answer for them right now. So we really need to push to put plates on these things and hold them accountable. I would say even insurance, because there's no accountability on it. You get hurt, it's like, it's on you. So for the older adults in our community, we really need to say yes to this resolution. I support it.
Laura?
Yeah, I'd like to add that, there've been many deaths, in 2020, when the e-bikes were legalized in New York City. Before that, they were illegal. They did not anticipate the rapid growth. They did not anticipate all these problems and issues. And, in fact, I think there were 48 deaths since it was legalized, and many maimings and injuries. It's a serious problem and it's a growing problem. In fact, e-bikes are now souping themselves up so that they can go 48 miles per hour. And the lack of accountability is just a real issue. The climate of like the Wild West with going down the wrong way, running through stop signs, red lights, sidewalks. I think that it's just something has to be done, and this is what's the city council, what the law has proposed right now, and I think that it's very much needed.
Josh, and then Sheila. And Bob. I didn't see your hand, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm your blind spot for today.
Okay, so then we'll go backwards. Right, go ahead.
I just think it would be very difficult to ask illegal immigrants to get licenses.
But not to. Oh,
I guess
No,
it's not so much.
That's okay, but before that, what's the response to that?
I do.
Laura?
Well,
Cause that is a concern.
That's their whole livelihood,
Yeah.
is to immigrate.
but we all have the same red lights, stop signs. And we're living, we have a very lawless culture right now.
So they get a license, they
And-
get deported.
No, well, this is the situation. You have to obey, we all have the same traffic laws. We don't have a protected class that you have to stop at a red light and you don't have to stop at a red light. That is not how we can function in this city. New York City did a fabulous, successful program leading the nation. It's called ID NYC program, where whether you're illegal, illegal, no matter what your status is, you get your IDs. The DOT is running a program right now where you could turn in your bicycle because you suspect or you know that you don't have a certified battery. And so the DOT, programs are being done to help people. The sponsor of this act wants registration to be free or very low cost. We're one city, and this has to do with traffic laws. This has to do with a lot of people who ride bikes e-bikes are injured themselves. And so knowing that you can't speed because, you know, there's more accountability and there's lights, that helps everybody. And these are expensive and they get stolen. And having identification and license plates, that helps, you know, everybody. So I just don't accept the premise that this is going to be something insurmountable for us to do.
Rashida, oh,
I just don't see undocumented workers lining up to get it. It's-
Well, this is what I was
There's no
thinking.
way that happens.
wait a minute, it's Rashida. I can see Rashida, Bob.
Again,
Ram Dot.
Blind spot.
No, Ram Dot, and then who's down there?
Blind
And
spot.
then Oscar. Rashida,
I had a comment, but I guess I could respond that, I'm seeing this more as, it doesn't matter who you are, you still have to follow the law. I'm not saying, yeah, I just feel like it's about the law.
Exactly.
So if I'm illegal and I'm walking on the sidewalk and I get hit by an e-bike and someone's illegal, it shouldn't matter. It should be that if you're riding a bike, you should be on the street. If the light is red, you stop. You know, whatever the thing is, you stop. If it's green, you go, all of that. That's kind of what I see this as, but my comment was more of a question about something else in terms of safety. So it's like a short story. One of the runners said she got attacked, when she was running. Someone came up behind her and she thought it was one of the runners, so she but someone grabbed her.
Where was
And
this?
by Philston, those stairs. Like there, those stairs that, before the Philston School, parking lot.
Agriculture.
I don't know what it's. between
probably
them
West.
That's the Bruss Park. That's the Bruss
Oh,
Park,
that's what
yeah.
that is?
Mhm.
And they were on a, e-bike?
No, this was like a separate, cause she was running and she thought it was a runner behind her and it was a fast person. And she said she saw the person grabbed her, so she elbowed and she gave a description. But, so she sent me all of the information just because, you know, being on the club board. I wonder in those instances, do I report that to you or the 50th precinct or like?
She should report it to the 50th immediately when something like that happens. And if you're getting it secondhand, yeah, you can send it to us. We'll send it to the board. We'll send a complaint. But the best way of dealing with that is having somebody fill out a police report and that immediately when something like that happens.
I don't think they'll take the report unless it's from the complainant, unless it's a minor. So I think she needs to do it.
But at the very least, it is good that it comes to our committee because we can tell them directly and maybe they can have some presence there or something, or they know of some details that are going on in that area with previous stuff like that.
And I guess her thing is she just says she's not gonna run at night, cause we meet at night. I mean, I haven't, cause I come to.
And they have the cameras around there,
But,
too, other schools, definitely not how to report it.
She says she's not.
Oh, it's very dark.
That's what's.
Yeah,
I think that's.
Yeah, it's not lit properly.
But the description, they have to go somewhere where there's cameras, like eventually you'll see them on a camera.
Right,
Especially with
okay.
the school right there, they'll definitely see them on a camera. And she's gonna have to report it.
I will.
Chuck, Thank you. Chuck, we're gonna get to you in a minute. We have Bob, Rhonda, Oscar, and then Chuck. Did I miss anybody?
Me.
Oh, I see a hand.
I just decided.
Okay, Bob.
Another blind spot.
The line is getting longer. Yeah, Ed, I have a question about a couple of the statistics in one of the whereas clauses.
Okay.
Down toward the bottom of the first page. Whereas in 2024, 13 people died from crashes in New York City involving e-bikes and scooters, and 48 have died in crashes, which I assume again is e-bikes and scooters. Since the e-bikes were legalized in 2020. 13 people, is that pedestrians? 13 pedestrians we're talking about?
Or the riders themselves.
Well, that's my question.
Which whereas?
It's the whereas down towards the bottom. It's the second from the bottom on the first page.
Well, yeah, on ours, it's seventh from the last.
Oh, okay.
It's,
you know.
it's different printing, that's all.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Was it pedestrians?
Yeah, that's my question.
I don't know.
Okay, well, I think that's a relevant fact. All right, well, just to make sure we're correct here. I did go to Crash Mapper, I did look it up, and the number of pedestrians who were killed in a crash involving an e-bike or scooter in 2024 was 1. That's the correct number.
Where do you see this? From which whereas clause are you disputing?
Well, obviously, I seem to be looking at a different page from what everybody else is looking at. I just printed the resolution.
You know what?
From last whereas.
Okay,
In the middle, six.
So you're saying what's in this whereas clause from NYC Crash Mapper is incorrect information? Is that what
well,
you're saying?
it's either incorrect or it's incorrectly stated. Because what I'm saying is that in 2024, 1 pedestrian died from a crash involving an e-bike or scooter. And that's according to Crash Mapper. And if you go back to 2020, and you're talking about pedestrians who were killed by e-bikes or scooters, the correct figure is not 48, the correct figure is 9.
Well, I got this data directly from Crash Mapper, so we'll have to,
Well,
Print it out.
His are finer.
Yeah.
It's the same numbers, but he's in a lower level of detail. Pedestrian
I'm talking
versus,
about pedestrians. I don't know what these other numbers represent.
The way that I'm reading it is that since 2020 up to 2024, 13 people have died. That's how I'm reading it.
No, well,
No.
I think
that's not what
this
it
is
says.
just counting, saying the people who are on the bikes themselves, which
Right.
won't be counted as a pedestrian.
Well,
But
that's. a
they
different-
matter too.
right.
I mean,
You're right.
these are
I-
deadly
I-
accidents that
I
we
agree,
should
but.
just like regulate.
So
We should
it's
regulate the vehicle.
Okay.
It's from 2020 to 2024, as is written in the whereas clause.
Right. And what I'm saying is the number of pedestrians killed in that period of time by an e-bike or scooter was 9. Now, if we're talking about, other people who were killed somehow, I don't know, the people riding, I'm not sure I understand how that fits into the rationale of putting on a license on these vehicles. What difference does that make? I mean, if somebody's killed, you know, we know who it is, we know what happened. The license seems to me irrelevant at that point.
We wanna know who killed them, right?
Well, if it's a solo accident, yes. But, you know, the whole thrust of this argument is that they are dangerous and they are dangerous to everybody else in the community. I mean, there certainly are problems with e-bikes and scooters in the sense that some of them are defective. You know, we know that they have bad wiring. Sometimes they have substandard batteries that causes fires. You know, I'm not quite getting the argument about how dangerous they are and dangerous to pedestrians and so on. But when, you know, I just like to see accurate numbers here.
Okay,
That's
well,
all.
I'd like to respond to that, actually. So I would say just go down to the very next whereas clause when, Consumer Product Safety Commission reports that e-bikes, scooters disobeying traffic laws led to nearly 250,000 emergency room visits and 215 deaths nationwide between 2017 and 2022. So just because if few people died, that's bad enough, but what about all these emergency room visits? What about the 400 people that testified at this committee saying that their lives were destroyed by bikes and
And what comes to the Public Safety Committee, our frustration over the past several years, as
I've been
if you're on
bringing
the
it up for
public
years.
safety, this is what we hear. Especially people from Kingsbridge and all over, they come to the committee meeting, they schlep to the precinct, and what are they talking about? E-bikes and how dangerous they are. So
No, I understand people's, I
that's what,
understand
as the
people's
public,
testimony.
and.
But what I'm saying is, if you have a whereas clause and you have numbers in there, and they're pretty scary numbers, I'd like to know that they're accurate. That's all. That's all I'm saying here. And actually, I'm glad you brought up the Consumer Product Safety Commission, because I looked all over that site, and I could not find anywhere that it said that these emergency room visits were the result of disobeying traffic laws. I couldn't find that anywhere on there. And that's not surprising, because the Consumer Product Safety Commission is responsible for product safety. And when I went on that site, it looked to me that the emergency room visits were people who were either riding a hazardous bike that was poorly manufactured, or this was a result of fires that were started because the wiring was poor or the batteries were poor. And in the case of a fire, you not only have the person whose bike it is, you can have whoever's around them, you know, it could be,
The
yeah. So, but again, I didn't see anything that attributed these numbers to disobeying traffic laws. So I would like somebody to, if it's on the Consumer Product Safety Commission report, and I missed it, which is possible, I would love to see somebody say, here's the URL, here's the link, that sort of thing.
Okay, so that's for those two. Okay,
Well-
so. Anything else? Okay, so we go to Rhonda. Is
So-
Rhonda, Oscar, Chuck and Joy?
So I'm looking at, well, I have 3 things. So regarding the data, like I just pulled it up. In our community board 8, from 2020 till as of last month, we had 13 people who died. 7 pedestrians, 6 motorists. And I mean, it gets scarier, honestly. There's been 369 pedestrian crashes in our community board district, 108 cyclists, 15 motorists, a total of 1792 total crashes in our community board district since 2020, up until last month.
And the motorist guide how, Ron?
It doesn't say, it just gives us
Okay.
like
Can
data.
Yeah,
you
well,
send
that's-
him the links so
Yeah.
he could put it
But
on?
is
that all crashes or just e-bikes?
The injuries is broken down by 108 in cyclists, 369 in pedestrians, 15 in motorists, and a total of 1792. The crashes and salts are unspecified.
1315 motorists?
Motorists,
Cars.
Yeah. I can.
Okay.
Because your
Okay, so
crash
then-
report does both.
So then,
e-bikes
excuse
and
me,
salons.
everybody,
Oh, and then my last thing is, there is a bill in the state legislature as well. It's being brought in, committee by Assembly Member, Rebecca Seawright. We may wanna look into see if like the city council and the assembly is kind of on the same page. In terms of the 2 bills.
There are several state bills.
Okay, I know that
Several.
Rebecca Seawright.
I have
that's
that, I
fine.
don't know if I'll take the time here. Yeah.
or should we have other people?
Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
saying that,
So,
good point.
That's it, yeah.
thank you, Rhonda.
Good job, yeah.
That's the
Sorry.
data, I think.
Oscar,
Everything was already said.
thank you, Oscar. Chuck? Chuck? Chuck, you're up.
Happy to hear you.
Chuck,
did you have a comment?
Can you hear me? Is it my turn?
Yes.
And Marty
Hello?
gave your-
Am I on or not?
Yes, Chuck, but I just want to let you know that Marty also gave the report.
Okay. Let me talk to you as something of an expert. One of the few times in my life that I've disagreed with my friend Brother Gelman. If you may recall, I was a member of the MTA board. And as you may recall, there was a period of time, was a very serious effort to try and deal with bikes and bike pathways on the bridges and tunnels of which I was the chair. I can tell you that over the years, in various capacities, I've met a fair number of aggressive lobbyists for one cause or another. The biking associations are perhaps the most aggressive I've ever met. So let me focus on what I did, what I know, and why, and give you the background. There are essentially 3 types of, maybe 4, of vehicles that, and I call them vehicles, that are relevant. 1, there is the e-bike. 2, there is the regular bike. 3, there are motorbikes, mopeds, and that generation. And 4, increasingly, scooters. I'm going to dismiss the motorbikes and the scooters and focus on the e-bikes and the regular bikes. The effort was to create, and let's take one of the bridges that all of you should be familiar with, the Henry Hudson Bridge. There was a complaint and a request to create a wider path on that which is on the north side of the bridge, or I guess it's more on the west side of the bridge, and to recreate one on the east side so that there would be still more room. In the course of that, I set up on each of them cameras to track what kind of usage was going on and how it was going on. There were additional cameras put in on all of the major bridges in New York City so we could figure out what the heck was going on here. I will tell you, I came to the party with a prejudice. The prejudice was that I had seen too many instances of e-bikes with messengers and people delivering food and the like, going the wrong way up a one-way street and nearly hitting people. So I did come to the party with a prejudice. I started to do the examination, and David was on my back most of that time, and he heard my comments as they were going along. Let me give you the bottom line of where the issue is and why I think we're misfocused. The figures are not accurate. They're not accurate because the police department does not accurately report them, did not accurately report them, and was instructed not to report them. Why? It was just too big a hassle. They didn't report, for example, statistics we quietly collected in an area, and Gelman will remember this. It was in the 70s on Broadway, between 72nd Street roughly and 78th Street, to see exactly what was going on in the regular streets where bicycle paths had been set up. And we saw the instances of over and over again of people riding the wrong way up the one-way street. And I would turn to the police officials and say, you saw it, what'd you do? We're not going to bother with those. We can't identify them. They don't have a license plate. And how do we know what we're going to do in terms of when we've nailed them or when we haven't or when we ask for their identification? Most of these messengers don't have anything. They weren't reporting the statistics. They're worthless. Indeed, our statistics were worthless for the same reason. What is the issue here as it is? I don't think there are too many people who will disagree with me that some of the messengers, if not many of them, because they are paid on a volume basis, how many meals they deliver and the like, go in whatever way will get them there fastest. And that's probably the wrong way up a one-way street or on the sidewalk or in any way they can. They are primarily the e-bike users. They are indeed, I think, overwhelmingly the e-bike users in the city of New York. They have a wonderful lobby, both of advocates who are paid and advocates who are not paid. And every effort that we made to try and narrow the issue just to that, and Bob Bender will remember it because he and I discussed it specifically, that I was zeroing in on the messengers, that the issue was they just had a huge lobby. What does all of this boil down to make this long story short? I came to the conclusion, after all that I saw, that there were three things that had to be done. One, narrow the issue and narrow it to the e-bikes. They are the people who have a reason to go the wrong way up a one-way street, to speed and to do things that are dangerous to people. And so that's issue number one. That's my conclusion. Number two, and by the way, it is the reason that I did not put through or allow a change in the pathways on the Henry Hudson Bridge. Two, it is my view, for what it is worth, that every bicycle or every vehicle, whether it be a motorbike or an e-bike, that has a motor of any kind should be required to have a license plate. an identifying vehicle. Because if you don't, you will never get the police to enforce it, and it's worthless. You're playing with yourself. Now, they will scream and yell that it's really a money-raising event. There's nothing wrong with raising tax money. I'd rather have it done that way than cameras. But the fact is, it is one, but its purpose is to get enforcement. You will never, never, ever, ever get serious enforcement without a single identifying point. Should we have it? Yes. Should the price be low? It clearly shouldn't be astronomical. Number 3, you are going to have to agree, if you're going to ever go down this road, that any bicycle that has a license plate is required to comply with the same laws as automobiles. Believe it or not, the Bicycle Associations of New York take the firm position that their bicycles are not cars and they don't have to comply with red lights. They don't have to comply with stop signs and the like. That was the constant plea made to us in the hearings we conducted. Constant. And so the third part of this equation is you got to be prepared to say, this is what you're going to do. You're going to comply with the same regulations. A red light is a red light for you. A stop sign is a stop sign for you. And a one-way street is a one-way street. And you stop there, in my view. If you now put to that task, you will get some action, maybe. If you don't, you have no shot at all, and you're kidding yourself. That's my view, based on experience.
Thank you, Chuck. Does anyone?
I have the DOT bicycle law right here. It says they have to stop.
Under the BTL, the bicycle is a vehicle.
Okay, no, I just mean in regards to, Chuck. Thank you,
Yeah,
Chuck. We have two more.
I do have one comment about Chuck.
Yeah.
Chuck, I don't know whether you've driven down the Henry Hudson recently downtown on the lower level. So you've seen that they have expanded the bike lane.
Yes. I made that deal with Gelman. Gelman was pushing me to expand it. Am I wrong?
Okay,
Apparently they lost your report, sorry.
thank you all. So we have two more, people to raise their hands, Joy and then David. You forgot, huh, Joy?
Where do I start? Where do I start? It is a lawless society, increasingly from top to bottom, as a matter of fact. But we are the lobby. We're the ones that want our food to still be warm. We want our groceries to be there in 15 minutes. It's the demand that's driving this. So the problem I have with the Priscilla's law is I don't want to demonize a group of people, like, why are they doing that? They're doing that because there's a demand. The other issue I have is, when I was a traffic court judge and the green light law was passed, the theory behind that is that regardless of citizenship, you get a license, so you get insurance. I don't see that here. And so, yes, you have a license plate on these e-bikes, but where's the insurance? And are you going to put that on some undocumented Honduran who's driving for a restaurant, and the restaurant is the deep pocket? I have an issue with that. Although ultimately I support the safety aspect of this, I do wonder about the import. Who is this going to come down on?
The plan was that it had to be the owner of the bike.
Okay, wait a minute, everybody. The person who will respond is a committee chair, and then we'll go on to the next.
Chuck is correct. It's the owner of the bike or law. Would you like to speak on
No,
that?
because you
Yeah.
just said it.
The undocumented Honduran, they're gonna pay for it? No,
Wait a minute,
insurance is not part of
one
this.
person at a time, please. And if you want to let Laura.
No, I mean, it
Only
said
one
it.
person can
The
speak.
Holden's office said that the everything about Priscilla's law rests with the driver of the bicycle. It is on the operator of the bicycle to register and to get a license, period.
And
Insurance is not part of this,
Should be, that's
but
not
it should be,
insurance.
but that would be very hard, much more onerous.
no, it wouldn't be hard
know?
because if you
But it's
target
not part of
the
this.
restaurants or the eateries or whoever they're driving like maniacs to get the food or the groceries to the consumer who's demanding that they get them in 5 minutes, you know, that should be the deep pocket you go against. If you're just thinking about liability, not liability, but you just wanna find the person who did the crime and,
We just want to change the climate. Because when they did this with mopeds, only within the past year, that mopeds had to be treated like cars, they've had far fewer problems with mopeds. I was reading about this whole thing. The whole climate has changed because the operators have to, they know that and they have to be insured because they are more like cars. So I get that. But right now there's zero, there's nothing. And that's what we have in the city, is Priscilla's Law.
I think some of this is performative, but, you know.
Who's next?
Ask,
everyone.
Is this in regards, who's on, is this in regards to what Joyce said?
Yes.
Okay.
I just think that the outrage is a little misplaced in the sense that I understand us not demonizing the operators, but at the end of the day, the operators are human and they can make a decision. So like, if reality, what should happen, the business owner should register the e-bikes and they have all the liability. But if God forbid something happens with an Uber, the driver is the one going to jail, regardless of the fact. Or with a delivery truck or whatever, whoever's driving that vehicle is the person that's going to be persecuted because they're operating it. Regardless of whatever pressure's on, that doesn't matter. You have a responsibility to the city, the community, to make sure that everyone is safe. Then you do your job. So I think it's a little unfair to say that we're going to demonize them because there needs to be law and order regardless of the fact. And this is coming from someone who parents, well, they came here legally, but they were immigrants. So it's not like I'm insensitive to the topic, but you have to have law and order. It is what it is.
Thank you. Hey, David?
Okay, I think it's pretty well known that I'm a very, very, very big cyclist, okay? I've probably done about 14,000 miles on bikes over the years. Personally, I don't believe in e-bikes. I think it's cheating. But I'm very happy to see, I one of my quads. I'm thrilled. I've said this several times. Oh, and I just wanted to say, Ed and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, that I firmly believe that job number one of government is public safety. And this plays to public safety. But at the same time, I reached out to Ed a week ago I wanted to see this resolution because I was concerned about what I had heard when it was presented at Parks. And to Bob's point, frankly, I think it's very inflammatory because it clearly implies that pedestrians were killed, and pedestrians were hit, and 250,000 pedestrians went to the hospital. And I don't believe that that's true, and Bob points that out very, very well. So first thing is, I think that this needs to be restructured to identify pedestrians, cyclists, motorists, etc. But the other thing I want to get to is, I've been on this topic for 2.5 years when I wrote a letter to the editor of the Riverdale Press. Happens to have been the week that, you may remember it, but the cover page of the Riverdale Press had a deliverista clearly going the wrong way on Fieldston Road. You could easily tell it was Fieldston Road, and you could tell he was going the wrong way. And what I wrote about was, in the space of 1 month, as a pedestrian, as a cyclist, and as a driver of a car, I almost got hit by e-bikes going the wrong way on a one-way street. So I am very, very alert to this topic. I'm very concerned about this topic. However, I think it's very important also to make a distinction here. again, I don't personally care for e-bikes, but pedal assist is a different animal from an e-bike, because an e-bike has a throttle control. To me, once you have a throttle on your handlebar, you're a motorcycle. You're a moped, you're a motorcycle, whatever. And that should be under the state DMV, VTL, right? Vehicle and Traffic Law. But we are a city and we need to focus on it. And I think we need to focus on these e-bikes, particularly because in those 3 incidents that I've had, and many times since then, it was very, very clear that the person with the e-bike was looking at their phone, usually a delivery person, but also just regular folk, looking at the phone and not paying attention. When you have pedal assist, you must pay attention to the bike. So I think that it's important to separate the two. Again, I am very glad that the delivery folks don't have to spend $3,000 on a car they can't afford. They can barely afford a $500 e-bike or pedal assist, fine, but that's manageable. And I'm glad to see that they can do that. But the purpose here, again, when you have a throttle control on your handlebar, all right, you are a motorcycle, which should require a license plate, an operator license, I believe insurance, and a helmet, frankly. Those should all be required. And part of it is that, you know, if you think about it, if you were a cop and you saw somebody on an e-bike doing this or that, what are you gonna do? But if there's a license plate on it, you can stop them, you can confiscate it, you can record it, you can compare the license plate with their operator's license, and it may be that the e-bike, the throttle controlled e-bike is owned by a restaurant or it's owned by the operator. Doesn't really matter. The issue is the safety associated with it or the lack of it and how to protect pedestrians and others. But I would not go so far as the pedal assist. They go much more slowly and you must concentrate on the bicycle, not your phone. And I think that our resolution should reflect that. And I think it's important, as Bob was saying, we need to articulate these stats at a finer level because it is, frankly, it is very inflammatory and anybody hearing it will think, oh my God, 13 pedestrians were killed. Well, no, I didn't think so. And Bob proved that. And I think it's generally so. So.
All I'll say is the whereas clause never claims that 13 pedestrians died.
It clearly gets heard by the listener.
And I'll say if those statistics exist, I will make an attempt to find them. But I would just say that 13 people dying, 48 people dying, 250,000 people in emergency rooms. The numbers remain the same regardless of whether they're on foot or not, and that's a tragedy in and of itself.
Well, I mean, Bob does have the statistics, and if it stays like that, I will vote and lobby against it.
Yeah, there's only one way to read this resolution, and that's clearly the danger that these e-bikes present to other people. That's clearly the whole point of this resolution.
I think it was.
So it's not accurate to say, well, you know, if somebody's riding on an e-bike that's badly manufactured and kills themselves, what does that have to do with the license that we're talking about? Okay, that's two totally separate issues. I'm not saying I'm opposed to this resolution. I haven't said that. I think there's a real issue here. I just want to see statistics that accurately reflect what the whole thrust of this resolution is about. And right now they don't.
So if you look at that, I know Rhonda, thank you, you sent over some links, so it'll be.
May I just say a final?
No, because Daniel raises his hand.
Oh, okay.
I just, when I read this, I mean, yes, it starts out citing a pedestrian. It's named after a pedestrian who died in an e-bike accident. But it then, I mean, I didn't read that as only pedestrians. It then talks about how they run red lights and go the wrong way down one-way streets and cause battery fires, and that there's no accountability because they don't have licenses. They never get pulled over. They don't get red light tickets. There's cameras, there's speed cameras, there's red light cameras. And if they had a license, they wouldn't just automatically be like, well, I don't have to listen to this red light because they'd get mailed a ticket every single time. Like us motorists also learn to slow down when we learn where all the cameras are.
I don't think there's any argument here on that
hard.
Okay, so I have a question before you speak, Laura.
Oh, and the
yeah.
last thing is the other one, it says dangerous, reduce the the need for dangerous police chases. At least one of these deaths that I even watched on camera was the person riding the bike because the cops like tried to chase after the e-bike. Or at least if they even have the license plate, they don't really have to chase after them as much because they could track them down another way if they know exactly whose bike that is. They can just go to their house later. And they don't need to knock them off their bike on a bridge.
The safety aspect. Because my concern also is the people, the undocumented people, illegals, whatever you want to classify them as, who likely would not register. But you mentioned the IDC cards. Are they able to use that to register?
I would imagine it's the beginning of a process.
If you can just double check on that when you.
Well, the fact is that DOT is now taking the bicycles. You could bring it in and get a free bike with a decent battery with there are ways and systems and measures in the city.
So I'm just asking about the ID for illegals if they were to use that New York City.
Well,
ID.
I don't know that, Julie, I can answer that at this point because.
No, at the meeting, because.
No, I don't know that I can answer it at the meeting because
Okay, sorry.
I don't know the exact system
Mhm.
that they're using in terms of registration of, how that will be. I know that this is legal ID, and if you have legal ID, that is what is required to register.
So maybe you could ask somebody who is sponsoring it, if they're able to use that. Because that is a concern. How are the people who don't have IDs, because you mentioned that ID, if they can use that? Okay.
I think we're all in agreement on the principle here.
Well, we're-
It's on the same side
We're
of
gonna
the issue
move on.
largely.
We're gonna move on from this. I just want to take a consensus, it's not a vote. If anyone, if they have to vote today, who will vote against it? Just to get an idea. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move
My last
on.
word, you said I have the last word?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I
No, no,
did, I
it's
did.
just that it's very interesting to see, national statistics and what statistics and a lot of times what I learned was that the police don't differentiate between an e-bike, a regular bike, and as Chuck said, the record keeping has not kept up with
Okay.
this at all.
We got it.
But when we're at a public safety meeting and we have the police tell us that the robberies in Van Cortlandt Park, and they reported on this for 3 months, had to do with an e-bike gang they're so fast, they're so.
Okay,
But that's what's important to the public safety
Laura,
community,
Laura.
anecdotal.
We're gonna move on only.
All
I'm
right,
gonna
thank
give
you.
him- I'm gonna
Thank
give
you for your
He's
patience.
taking your last 10 seconds.
So,
Kill him.
we did come across information, and before I blurt it out, let me just research it, but there was something that stated that people who are undocumented will be able to register this thing. And, but rather than trip over my tongue and not give accurate information, I'll get the information on that, because we do have it, we've just been bombarded with so much information on this, it didn't make it into our,
Okay, so you'll come to the meeting with that. Thank you all for that discussion. It was good, but we're gonna move on. Okay, the next committee, asking David, the next committee to report is traffic and transportation. Josh?
Fiscal year 2026 budget was discussed. We did step streets. People were asked to take pictures. Thanks for shooting. The DOT was supposed to come at the next meeting, which is the third Thursday of the month. They are not coming, they'll come in May. Maybe.
They're not coming till May, did you say?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Ed was kind enough, he spoke at the last meeting about Priscilla's Law and regulating e-bikes, which we just heard about. And I was thinking of starting writing a resolution to have permeable surfaces as a requirement so that you don't have more runoff, but the water is absorbed. That's it.
Great, thank you. Questions, comments? Okay, thank you. You, Rhonda?
Hey everyone, meeting is tomorrow. We are discussing our fiscal year priorities and also the amazing Comeback Kid Award. And that's pretty much it, thanks.
And you guys are keeping the name Come Back Kids?
Yeah, the committee has decided to keep, for continuity purposes, keeping things the same way for now, and then, yeah, looking at it. You know, a lot of the folks on the committee are brand new, so for continuity purposes, they're keeping everything. For now.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, may I? Are you still on traffic and transportation?
No, but you have a question for him? Do you have any questions for you before?
I do for traffic and transportation, if that's where you are.
Yeah, go ahead.
At the moment, on West 254th Street, traffic DOT is doing the preparatory work for the construction of sidewalks on both sides of the street. And I just want to give you a heads up. In the event you will have two sidewalks on opposite sides, the next question will be a one-way street, because there is no way, and MTA has measured it, that the buses that come up from the railway station can operate with just two sides of the street, a sidewalk. And if, as I expect, the people who are losing their parking spots because of the second sidewalk turn it into another one, you probably won't get two cars past each other down that street. I tell you that because it will have an enormous impact all over the community in terms of diversion of traffic. This is a budding problem that will probably encourage MTA to discontinue the buses in that station. They are losing a lot of money on it. They tried to take it away when I was there. I didn't let them. I will tell you that will go. And that is not good for the community. So whoever's doing this and focusing on it better stop the DOT, if they want to, before those sidewalks are installed, because they will never be removed under at least this administration.
Yeah, I think we should also talk to the MTA then to ask that question, that if they're aware of this.
They are.
sidewalk, which is not in the final design phase, as they said, it will be by the spring, summer. But we should definitely ask them that and that confirm that they will be continuing the bus service. And if not, then definitely would need to address with DOT, DDC, and the MTA again.
Well, be aware that that was the specific issue that was discussed 3 years ago. If you remember, originally the concept was to have it on both sides. And this board voted against having it on both sides and recommended one side alone. The only entity that has pushed for both sides is DOT. Nobody has asked them, including SAR, to have both sides. If they continue, they have now been drilling the street on both sides to prepare for sidewalks on both sides. If they go ahead and proceed further, I can assure you, A, you will have within 6 months a demand for one-way traffic, and soon thereafter, the bus companies will come to you and say, forget it.
That's just so, thanks. So Farrell is following up on that as well. Thank you, Chuck, for pointing it out. Okay, so. Bob, do you have anything for this month for the Greenway?
Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
I do. Oh, I don't have anything to report. What I am going to report is that we are going to meet on February 27th.
All right.
Mhm.
27. Thank you. And you're meeting at the board office?
I hope so.
Thank you. Okay, Margaret, do you have anything for?
We're just planning for our next meeting on March sixth. We're hoping to have someone from the city or state, human rights office, et cetera, to present. So more to come on that. And if I could, on the veteran services, we had our meeting on the 30th. January 30th, and we are planning for the November Veterans Month commemoration, and we're also looking into an April event acknowledging 50 years since the formal end to the Vietnam War. So we'll be following up on that, as well as the criteria for any Veterans Award.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so then the Irving Latimer Committee?
We didn't get any nominations yet. We're supposed to have a meeting, after the aging committee on Thursday, but I don't think we're gonna have it, cause we don't have anything yet to discuss yet, so we're gonna try and make another date for that. So
The
get your
press release was sent out. to
Right, the
everyone.
press release was sent out, maybe I can forward it to everybody, and we can. get it out
Everybody
there.
got
Oh,
it.
yeah,
I
okay,
can
just like get it
resend
out there, cause we didn't get any responses yet. So last year it took forever to get them, so if we can, everybody can just put it on your Facebook, send it out, you know,
Okay,
this, thank you.
thank you. Okay, and then before we go on to unfinished business, Ed has less than a minute to read something.
So I had the information I alluded to earlier was sitting right in front of me, and this comes from the co-sponsor, Queens Councilman Bob Holden, and there will be no issue with obtaining proper identity needed to apply for registration. Since 2015, the ID NYC program has successfully issued ID for all New Yorkers regardless of immigration status, the unhoused, youth, and formerly incarcerated. It's used for legal ID for health benefits, housing, employment, cultural admission, etc. So that will not be a barrier for this.
You should include that
Very good.
somewhere in the resolution.
I will include it in the resolution because I've seen the feedback that we've got has
Mhm.
led me to do that. If somebody will accept that from the floor as a friendly amendment, I guess.
Oh, because you sent it out already?
Yeah.
Okay. Margaret?
Question, is that eligible for a license though?
It's eligible for ID for all New Yorkers. So they've. It doesn't say eligible for a license.
The bill calls on them to create a system for getting these licenses and to make a fee for it, which might be zero. So I feel like at that point, they'd say that IDLEC is acceptable, like, because there's no framework yet. This is just, we want them to get licenses.
We don't have to manage that part of it.
Yeah, that's like a later. I mean,
You say so.
well, I think they keep alluding to these other future, like the most. And it's in the bill, it says will be set by the.
Well,
committee.
actually, the city council has their own fiscal office and the, OMB, when it came to Priscilla's law and intro 606, it puts aside the part that you have to have public information about it, you have to have, enforcement, you have to have IT. In other words, they were saying all the things in these, statements that are within that happens within laws when they're proposed, what you need to have.
They're gonna double check for the meeting on all those points, because I said he had 1 minute to read that. Okay, so, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna go on to unfinished business. Anybody has anything? New business? Okay, so then we're gonna go into executive session based on open meetings law 105 F. And who is?
Oh, is Debbie, right?
Debbie,
Is that right, Debbie?
is
Yeah.
that Debbie Allen?
Yeah.
Okay, but she's not in
She
the
has to
exec.
go into the-
I'm gonna move Debbie.
Before you move her,
Okay.
is that Debbie? Are you Debbie Allen? Or Debbie Green? Okay, Debbie, we're gonna put you in the waiting room. When we come back, we're more than likely just going to adjourn the meeting, so you can wait in the waiting room. And thank you for coming. Oops,
Make a
sorry.
motion to go into executive session. We need a vote.
Second.
Anybody opposed? Abstain? Okay, we're in the bathroom.
Cause you just said to go back.
Oh, cause I was thinking, wait a minute, Farrah usually does that. Let's bring Farrah back. I'm like, okay.
That's a recording, Bill.
Yeah. The doors don't be working.
Okay, so the next executive meeting is March the 5th. The motion to adjourn. Okay, anyone object? Abstain? Thank you, everybody.